بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وبعد. As Muslims, we are always taught not to become too complacent, not to become too overconfident in our Islam, in our family, in our generation. Sometimes we feel that because I'm in a Muslim community, that I'm near a masjid, that I have a Muslim name, that by necessity, my children, their iman, my iman, everything will be protected. However, history teaches us that even the greatest ulama, the greatest scholars, they had to work on their iman. Iman is not something that because I have it, I will leave this world with it. We always talk about Jannah and Jahannam. In Jannah, we're like, inshallah, one day I'll make it to Jannah. And when I think about Jahannam, I think about those people who disbelieve. But we never entertain the option that if I am not too careful, I myself may not be able to make it. The Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum, whenever they would speak with one another, they would say, Kam nujaddid imanana. We need to renew our iman. In one hadith, Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, your iman is like your clothing. Just like you have to wash your clothing, you have to wash and renew your iman. And that's something we need to be aware of in our context as well, that just because I have a relatively stable Muslim family, my daughter's wearing a hijab, my son, he's appropriate, he has a Muslim name, that all of a sudden, mashallah, they're all Muslims. Unfortunately, like I mentioned yesterday, the termite syndrome, where you have a very beautiful chair made of wood, and you look at it and you're like, wow, this is such a beautiful chair. And then when you go to sit on it, the entire chair collapses because termites ate it from the inside. There's so many people, and I have this opportunity to interact with a lot of the youth. And I'll speak to them, and I'll know them for years, mashallah, coming to the masjid, very involved. And then they'll say to me, outwardly I'm doing this because of the pressure, but inside I'm not sure, I'm not so convinced. And a lot of scary conversations I have with them. So as Muslims, we should not be reactive, we have to learn to be proactive. What does reactive mean? Reactive means one day I come home and I see that my daughter's taking off her hijab, and all of a sudden now I'm shocked. She's 16 years old, she's 18 years old, she's going to college, and she doesn't want her hijab anymore. I come back and I see my son and he's being super disrespectful. I catch him with some substances that he shouldn't be, and all of a sudden I'm so shocked. That's what you call being reactive. That in the spur of the moment I try to make some drastic changes. I've seen people, this would happen where I remember a particular family, they assumed, a very good child. He was a hafiz of the Quran. And growing up, you see the child, you think everything is good. All of a sudden you realize that the child is not what you assumed. So you get shocked as a parent, you're like, okay, overnight I'm gonna take a flight back home and I'm taking him, he's not coming back to America. That's a very drastic reaction to something that should be treated very slowly, not overnight that I see a problem and the way to solve this problem is I'm going to trick my family to go back home where I'm from and I'm going to make a one-way ticket, then burn the passport, they're not coming back. That's not going to solve anything. As Muslim parents, especially in the West, we have to be very proactive from the beginning. Have a strong relationship with our children. Be aware of what our children are involved in. Make sure our children have good company. Make sure they're reading hadith and Quran and doing their adhkar. Make sure they're praying. Make sure they have love of the deen. So the basic lesson here for myself, and this is alarming, regardless whether you're the biggest qari, mufti, alim, or whether you're just an average person, protection of iman is something everybody has a responsibility for. Protection of my iman and the iman of my family. And the reason I bring all of this together is, in our Surah Al-Fatiha, we always recite, Ihdinas Sirat al-Mustaqim. Oh Allah, guide us to the straight path. Not guide me as an individual. I have to be proactive with my children. I'll just give you one example. Nowadays as parents, when we are tired of our children, what do? You know, you have infants, young kids, and you're tired, you can't take care of them. What do? You give them your smartphone, and you say, go ahead, watch whatever you want for the next 2 hours. I need to sleep, I need a break, I can't be with you. No privacy, no oversight, nothing. What do you think that child is going to see? When we give unfettered exposure to social media, if I have a 14-year-old son who's on Twitter, who's on, TikTok, and he's just like scrolling down like a zombie all day, he's seeing people having fun, having enjoyment, he thinks that's the reality of the world. His connection with me is nothing, sifr, nothing. But his connection with the outside world is so strong that before you know it, this termite syndrome, it looks like a beautiful chair on the outside, but from this exposure to social media, from videos to movies to music to bad company, before you know it, what looks like a beautiful structure, from the inside it's getting destroyed. And then one day you come and you see your child doing something that you're shocked with. You see your daughter doing something you're shocked with. That didn't happen last night. That's been happening for the last 5, 6, 7 years when we're not being vigilant. This is very alarming, and the reason I'm bringing it with such alarm is I've had a few cases recently where I'm interacting with some of the youth, and it's very shocking. And one of the key things I've noticed in these cases is when there's a disconnect between the parent and the child. As parents who may have come from back home, it's understandable that we won't fully understand our children. That's just the nature of the way the world works today. We'll never fully understand our children, but we have a responsibility to have a mode of communication with them. Never should I be so detached from my child that I don't know what's going on in his or her life. Because who's going to suffer from this? The entire family. There's so many cases. Good child, hafiz of the Quran, went to Muslim school, was doing all the good things, involved in the masjid, goes to college, within 1 month, all of a sudden runs off with another girl or another guy, gets caught with some drugs or some drink. I'm telling you, not one example, loads of examples. And all of this stems from being reactive but not proactive from the beginning. This is a long topic, and we've been talking about the subject of hidayah this entire week, of how we should not be just overly confident that, mashallah, I have, deen, I have a beard, I'm dressed like a Muslim, so mashallah, my family is protected. No. This world that we're living in, especially given the way social media is today, some of the most pious families are being targeted under their noses without even realizing. A much lengthier topic. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us. May Allah make us proactive, not reactive. And may He protect our children and ourselves from falling into the fitan of shaitan. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Inshallah, after the remaining sunan, we will have our weekly hadith session. Everyone is requested to participate. Jazakumullahu khairan.